I watched the all-women's NWA EmPowerrr pay-per-view last night, which was the brainchild of Mickie James, who produced the entire show. This was something that she fought very hard to do in WWE, but they were not interested. And it was the first pro wrestling show at the Chase Ballroom in St. Louis in 37 years. The old wrestling at the Chase shows. Pro wrestling has a very rich history in St. Louis. When I was there years ago, the St. Louis Hall of Fame was located in the old pro wrestling t-shirt shop, which isn't there anymore. It was at the South County Mall. I remember going in there and browsing around all the merch. They have like old school merch in there as well. And I stumbled into a Hall of Fame. In the back of the store, they had the old ring bell there that I could ring. Plaques on the wall. 3 minutes before they were set to go on the air, the fire alarm went off, and the building lost power. So that was not a great way to start the night. But they rebounded from that, and I enjoyed the show overall. I thought it was good, save, for that first women's tag team tournament semifinal match that Allison Kay and Marty Bell won over Renee Michelle and Sahara, I believe her name was. Yikes. And Velvet Sky on commentary was not good. She detracted from the show the entire time. Her microphone volume was either a lot louder than the other announcers, or she just was shouting into it the whole time. Maybe a combination of both. Talking over the other announcers, not good. I thought Joe Galli did a fine job on commentary. I enjoy his work. I always enjoyed his work when I used to watch NWA Power each week. So we had Diamante representing AEW, getting a win over Kylie Ray representing the NWA, and Chick Tormenta from AAA. They were kind of had the battle of the brands here. And Diamante picked up the win. Speaking of AEW, Team AEW, Red Velvet and Kylan King defeated Jazzy Yang and Miranda Gordy, the daughter of the late Terry Bam Bam Gordy, who I know had a WWE tryout earlier this year and apparently was not signed. This was, I thought, the better of the two semifinal matches. A better night for Red Velvet than she had on Dynamite last week against Jamie Hayter, I'll say that. Gail Kim, this was probably my favorite segment of the entire show. Gail Kim came out to a nice reaction, and she was talking about the history of women's wrestling. All of a sudden, out comes Taryn Terrell, her old rival from Impact Wrestling, flanked by Genocide and Paola Blaze. And Taryn grabbed the microphone, and she was talking about how the show was really all about her. And as she's going on and just being generally very annoying, out comes Awesome Kong. And she lays waste to all of the heels. She gave an implant buster to Paola Blaze. Kong grabs, she kind of does the come hither motion to Gail Kim, who was out on the apron, and says, get back in the ring. And Kong grabs a microphone, which is a rare thing for her to cut a promo. But we got a rare Awesome Kong promo here. Very much out of character for her. She said it's been a very hard year in the Kong household. She didn't say why, but I assume it has to do with Glow, which she was a star on, being renewed for a 4th season last year by Netflix, and then they changed their minds and they canceled the show due to COVID, or what they claimed was due to COVID. That, coupled with the fact that AEW allowed her contract to lapse and expire earlier this summer. But she said it's been a very tough year in the Kong household. And she said one of the only things that could possibly get her up off the couch was Gail Kim. And she got very emotional. She had tears streaming down her face talking about Gail and all the matches they had in TNA years ago. And in the course of talking about this, she announced her retirement. Now, she hasn't wrestled in a while. I know she had a bad back for a while. Even when she was in AEW, she barely wrestled. I mean, I don't even remember her wrestling. She may have had a few matches. So it's been a while since she's been in action, but she officially retired here. And then the two of them embraced. They had a moment here in the middle of the ring. This was great. The Gail Kim Awesome Kong feud in TNA put that Knockouts division on the map and put it far ahead of the Divas stuff that WWE was doing at the time. I mean, they weren't even taking women's wrestling seriously. And years later they started to, but it was these two women, as far as I think national promotions go, that really made fans sit up and take notice of women's wrestling. Even Gail Kim and Taryn Terrell, they had some great matches together, and Taryn Terrell did not have a whole lot of ring experience. But Taryn Terrell and Gail Kim had some great matches together. That was during the period where I was actually watching Impact every week, and I still remember that great ladder match they had, and even the last knockout standing match. I think it was at Slammiversary one year. So they, you know, and of course the common denominator here is Gail Kim. Not to take anything away from Awesome Kong, but Gail Kim was quite great in her day as well. So I thought this was a nice segment. It was a nice little send off for Kong. The two of them kind of they left the ring shoulder and shoulder, walking down. They had this great camera shot of them as they walked down the aisle. So I thought that was nice. We had Deonna Purrazzo retaining her Impact Women's Championship, the Knockouts Championship, I should say, over Melina. I thought they had a pretty good match. It was a little slow in parts because Melina was selling the leg. She was selling a knee injury. But Deonna Purrazzo right now is on top of the mountain, right? She's the Impact Knockouts champion. She's the Reina de Reinas champion in AAA. She's all over the place defending her titles. And so this was another successful defense for her. We had the finals of the tournament to crown brand new NWA Women's Tag Team Champions. These are new champions being crowned here for the first time since 1984, when Wendy Richter and Joyce Grable last held these belts. Billy Corgan has revived them, and your new Women's Tag Team Champions are the team of Allison Kay and Marty Bell, the Hex. They defeated Kylan King and Red Velvet. Very good match. Speaking of Billy Corgan, he walked out after this match with a bag with a belt in it, and he stood over by the announce desk. They did the entrances for the NWA Women's Championship match with Camille defending against legit Layla Hirsch from AEW, and as they were standing in the ring announcer read a prepared statement from Billy Corgan regarding Mildred Burke, one of the great legends in women's wrestling. Mildred Burke doesn't get talked about a lot. She did get inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame. It was one of these posthumous legacy inductions where it's not a lot of fanfare. They just sort of put them in there as a formality. But Mildred Burke, he got possession, did Billy Corgan, of her original Women's Championship belt. He acquired it from her granddaughter. And this was the unveiling of that championship belt. The referee held it up. So again, I thought a very cool moment. The one thing about what Billy Corgan does with the NWA, and you could say, well, you know, he's trying to revive a dead brand. The NWA is never going to be what it used to be. The NWA, what it was decades ago, that NWA died long ago. But I can appreciate him at least trying his best to make it mean something again. He's trying, you know, he's putting his money behind it and, you know, doing the old studio shows and trying to pay homage to the legends of the past, stuff like this, acquiring old championship belts and kind of putting them on display. He's probably paying more respect to the NWA than anyone else has in at least 20 years. So that was a cool moment. Camille retained her NWA women's title over Layla Hirsch a few weeks ago on Dynamite. If you remember, Camille was in the crowd. And after a Layla Hirsch match, Camille came over the barricade. They were next to each other in the ring. And standing next to each other, the size difference between them was comical. I mean, it was ridiculous. But these two worked very well together, and they had what I thought was the match of the night. Really good stuff from these two, especially Layla. Even in defeat, she got over big here. She's great. Layla Hirsch is the real deal. But I thought this was the match of the show. And they ended with a Women's Invitational Cup gauntlet, which I thought was okay. You know, I didn't know a lot of the women that were in it, so it was kind of tough to care about any of them winning. Chelsea Green won for a shot at Camille's championship on tonight's NWA 73 pay-per-view, which I'll talk about in a second. We also got to see Bianca Corelli, the daughter of Santino Marella, in this battle royal, or in gauntlet, I should say. She's still very green, but she looked good for the brief time that she was in there. Hopefully we get to see more of her in the future. There were some rough moments, including Lady Frost making her entrance, and apparently she froze the camera too, because the cameraman would not take the camera off of her for a good 3 minutes straight, while she stood outside the ring waiting to get in. There was a match taking place in the ring, but they didn't seem too concerned to show it, so whatever the technical issue was, they kept their camera on. This guy kept his camera on Lady Frost for far too long. But aside from a few snafus like that, again, I thought it was fine. Hat tip to Mickie James. I know this was very important to her. She put a lot of time and effort into this, and, hat tip to her for putting together a fun night. They claimed a sellout, which I believe would have been a little over 800 people in the ballroom there.